Episode 108 features the abilities of area artist Anita Gordon. Anita's work has been featured in area restaurants along the city's Tiger Trail and coming soon to the mural along Camp Street. Anita shares how she fell in love with art in various mediums and where her journey has taken her so far. Episode 108 starts now.
Welcome to the Lebanon podcast, highlighting all the great things happening in Lebanon, Indiana. Have an idea for an episode? Send an email to lebanon@lebanon.in.gov.
Hey folks, we're here on the podcast this time around, and we are getting a little bit artsy with a fantastic artist that chances are you've seen out and about painting or doing some kind of artistic related event. We're talking with artist Anita Gordon for episode 108 of our Love in Lebanon podcast. Anita, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And today is kind of a special day. You mentioned that you're starting to lay out the mural that's going to be on Camp Street, the CSX overpass. How excited are you to get this sucker going?
I am so excited. Yes, I already have some tape marks out there. Got everything planned out, so we are moving along.
And do you look at one of these things, like I'm looking at one of the pictures now of the Camp Street overpass. This is a big project.
It is. It's the biggest one I've done so far. It's actually twice the size of the last one I did.
What's your philosophy when it comes to, this is a big space.
The bigger the better. Yes, the biggest one I did in college was 6 foot, and I had to stand on a stool. Ever since then, I've been addicted to just going as big as possible.
The bigger the better, as you said. If we can, you talked about in college and talking about a project right now. When did you first get bitten by the artistic bug? Was it a young age or was it fairly recently?
It was. So I actually have a sister that got me interested in art very early. She showed me how to draw when I was really, really little and taught me to color. And then about 6th grade, I actually started painting. So I transitioned from drawing to painting at that point. And then I didn't really consider it a possibility for career until high school. I had a fantastic art high school teacher, and she introduced me to the aspect of the career development of that. And then in college, I actually decided to go for painting as a major. But it didn't really take off for a full career until college, though.
When did you first have someone say, "Oh, Anita, like this is really good. This is outstanding"?
It would have been early teens at that point. I started getting commissions in my teenage years to make people projects for money. So it started to be a thing in which I could actually see as a business.
Money talks, and
Yep.
It was talking, and you were listening. That's kind of the way it goes. Do you have a specific medium that you enjoy working with? Is it?
I actually have been sticking with acrylic lately. However, I do like to switch it up. If I stick with one medium for too long, I actually get stuck and stop doing all of the styles and techniques that I need to keep building and experimenting with. So I will actually rotate out. If I've been painting for a year or so, I have to switch up and do photography again for a bit. I do drawings, I do charcoal, I work in watercolor, I do a lot of oil painting. I'll even switch up the medium. So sometimes I'll even do the surfaces with canvas. I'll switch up to paper. Sometimes I'll do 3D forms instead, just to keep everything fresh.
And keep yourself just well versed and able to do all those different mediums and
Yes.
all that. What goes into a decision to maybe have that as a major going into college? Because that's a pretty big leap to be able to appreciate art that way.
Yes.
To have it as a major.
Absolutely. In high school, I was able to kind of look around at other artists in the area, and I knew I was not quite at the level I needed to be. So I researched a little more to find some college options that would push me to where I needed to be and be able to produce stuff that would be worth paying for.
What is it about art in general that just kind of tugs at your heartstrings or challenges you in a way that makes you just want to do it on a number of different surfaces?
So most of it is I just have the drive to create. I want to see things from life turned into a visual communication surface. I want to be able to have that interactive element. So a lot of my art, even though the themes switch from year to year, I often go back to the core element of interactivity. I like to have people see art and have it affect them, have it tell a story to them regardless of what I wanted it to say. And I also want them to be able to interact with it in ways of creating with me so they can come and paint with me, add elements to it. Even if I'm out on the street painting, I'll often hand the brush over to someone and let them add some marks, and they get to participate in that process, or even just have them tell me the stories that they get from seeing that. It's really that interactivity that I enjoy.
Can you share? I mean, what seems like your art has kind of challenged people in that way to be able to see things and react to it in a positive way. How good does it make you feel to be able to have someone see your work and ooh and ah, but also have it tell that story that you're talking about? Mission accomplished.
Yes, it is so exciting. Yeah, that's actually why this year I switched over to doing live arts instead of just commission-based work. Before, commission stuff would often be a past project. It's someone's story from before. But now that I'm doing live arts, it's that interactive element where they come up, they talk to me, and they tell me the stories that they remember and how it interacts with the future. So when I do live arts, I just did one at Cowan's recently, and I got to hear people's experiences from their seeing my artwork develop in layers. They got to tell me what parts of the building they remember, how that affects their future, what parts of the building they remember from their childhood, and their favorite parts that remind them of the community around them. So it's really just learning about people while I'm making art.
And that's called live art because it takes place right there live in front of people.
Absolutely, yeah. It's on display.
How great is it for art to be as versatile as what it is, where I can tell you, hey, Anita, would you paint me this? Or you can just paint life and do the live art side of things. It seems like it's very versatile.
It is. Oh, yeah. There are a lot of ways to create art. So many different formats.
And now, is there one that you talked about, you were doing a lot more of the live art? Is that what you enjoy most? Or is it just kind of one of those things where, like a sprinkler, you're going over here and kind of scratching that itch and then over on spots kind of as you feel led?
Yeah, I do switch back and forth even out of that. If I stay in live arts for too long, I end up focusing on the moment and conveying the feeling and the emotion of that environment. So I actually do have to switch over to studio art every so often to get my skills back on track. Live art is a lot faster of a process. I'll try to complete a painting within 30 minutes, sometimes an hour if I'm trying to spend a little more time on details, or if it's a large one, I'll spend 2 hours on a canvas painting. But with studio paintings, I can do up to 40 to 60 hours to make sure I'm getting all the details I want and telling the story that I want from my perspective.
Wow. And it sounds like there are a lot more live painting events within our community. I remember you did one, I think, at the Chop House.
I did.
And over at Clues, I've seen that. And then some of the Bob Ross stuff as well.
Yes.
It's just kind of neat to be able to have that kind of experience.
Yes.
Even for those of us who aren't very artistic.
No worries. Yeah, and I actually switched over to working with wine and canvas as well. So that's taking the community and involving them in classes to make them paint along with me. So in addition to my own live art, I do classes that bring in the community, and a lot of the locations have been in Lebanon as well.
And we're talking with Anita Gordon, a local artist, grew up in the community and really giving back to it in an artistic way. You've probably seen her work around town, and if you haven't, you're about to see a rather large mural be painted on Camp Street. And so once you decide, Anita, as I'm going to be an artist, I want to be an artist, get paid for it, I want that to be a career, what goes into it after that? How did that all happen for you?
Yes. For me, I wanted to make sure that I got the most out of the education part of it so that once I was done with school, I could just take off and do as much art as I wanted. So for me, I knew I lacked skills in the business department and some of the history behind it. So when I went to college, I talked to several other artists in the area, went within a 30-mile radius, stopped into studios, got their feedback about what I wanted to know and what they thought I should know. So then I ended up majoring in painting, and then I have a minor in visual communication design, minor in business, so that I could keep all that going.
Business. Yeah, there
yes.
you go.
And then art history as well. So I studied a lot of the art history courses so that I could look at the artists that worked before me, and then Van Gogh, artists like that inspire my work now so that I can incorporate all of the stuff that I learned to make sure that I am utilizing as much of that in a faster manner to just jump out there and create.
And is it finding spaces after that? Because if you go to the Sugar Creek Art Center in Thorntown, you can see a lot of Anita's work there, and that's more or less home base for you, or
that is a little bit closer. Yeah.
And what's that like to be able to have that kind of space and be able to work? Because it's wonderful. If you've never been to the Sugar Creek Art Center, I'd highly recommend it. Not in Lebanon, but boy, close enough where it's an easy trip or bike ride over to see it. What's that like to be able to have so many kind of artists, budding artists, and ones that are more experienced and all those things, kind of that melting pot? What's that like?
Yes. That is exactly what we use that phrase too
Oh,
often,
really?
the melting pot, because we have so many different artists. We have ceramicists, photographers, painters, printmakers, and we have different artists that do the porcelain painting as well. It's just a whole jumble of us, and that also goes along with the direction I wanted to get my experience from translated into. It's getting all of that knowledge and then utilizing it to create my own stuff. So with the Sugar Creek Art Center, I'm the artist representative. So I get to talk to all of the artists and the board members and get all of their feedback, get their perspectives, learn about their styles, and then also talk to the people that come in to see the art center as well and get their perspective on how they're viewing our artwork and everyone else's artwork in the building, and then use that to create better artwork myself. So I get to see all kinds of artwork there.
And you kind of touched on it earlier on in this podcast episode, but just kind of that twofold enjoyment where you enjoy creating the art and kind of seeing something and creating it, but it sounds like it's also equally rewarding to be able to hear from someone how they interpreted it. Is that something that you go, as you create something, are you focus on that at the very beginning? I wonder how someone is going to see this and perceive it and kind of take it in?
Oh yeah, that does actually fuel a lot of the finishing process. I love to start these projects, but I often have to use that reminder of how they're going to see it to make me finish the project. Yeah, it does definitely help with that project.
And if you can, what is an enjoyable career in the artistic field? What is that, if you thought about what that kind of looks like, having your own gallery type space? I mean, or something else along those lines?
Yes, so I have explored a few different avenues. That's actually why I started the art center. I wanted to see if I wanted to be a gallery director or something like that as well, where I get to see art, but also make a little bit myself. The further I get into the career, I'm finding out that I actually like to just go out and paint. So that's why I've transitioned into that live art element. So instead of having just one location, I want to have my hand in as many things as possible and just go around and create. For me, it has been a great plan to check in with the local areas as well. So with you, I've been able to work on a bunch of different projects as well, and it helps me stay connected to the community while I'm also getting to make art in multiple formats, multiple areas. It just keeps everything fresh instead of being stuck behind one studio door.
I'm guessing that's wonderful to be able to kind of call your own shots that way.
Yes.
We're getting ready for Lebanon City Market, where you may have seen last season, Anita, you were out doing the plein air art where you were just, it was a live paint, right?
It was, yeah.
And you may see some of Anita's work also around town as part of our Tiger Trail. Anita painted 4 different tigers, and so Boots over at the street department, Wave over at Seashore, the Lions Club, you can see that over at Clues Brews, and also Bruce, one of the fire departments. It's so many versatile looks as you think about those tigers. What's it like to paint a tiger?
Yes, that was a great
Fun, challenging, all the
experience.
above.
Oh, it was so great. Yes, I haven't done very many that are completely in the round. Most of the 3D surfaces, I would focus on the front view. So it's a vase or something that only has 2 to 3 perspectives you're looking at it from. So that was a great challenge. Yes, it inspired a lot of creative thinking to make sure that I was getting the best view from all points. Yeah. That was a challenge, but it was definitely worth it.
Everybody, she'll tell us what she really thinks after we hit record, I think. No, just kidding.
Yes.
You talked about things that inspire you, and you mentioned Van Gogh earlier. Looking at the Camp Street mural, and we're going to show a lot of pretty pictures as we get this podcast episode out, and so people have maybe seen it on social media. It's on the city's website as well. We'll do it as part of this podcast episode. Van Gogh obviously led to your just kind of thinking and scheming and thought process in this mural, right, on Camp Street. And what kind of hit you, tugged at your heartstrings to be able to create it in this way?
Yes. So the first thing that I looked at was the key points we wanted to get out of this mural. The interactivity, the colorful aspect, and then celebrating the community. So I ended up picking a Van Gogh style because that incorporates a lot of color. It also has a lot of the mark making that I can incorporate the community for. So when we have our community days, I have so many more little sections I can send people to do. They can utilize their paintbrushes to also paint alongside. And there's so many extra elements that they can incorporate in there. That was also a good one for the details to be able to hide those little paw prints in it. So because Van Gogh's style has all those little bitty marks everywhere, we can hide little paw prints for people to look for as they walk under the tunnel.
And so we have some before and after pictures that we're going to share with the community. And it always hit me when I applied for the grant with CSX. There are a couple of young ladies that were walking from one side of the road to the other that were going over to Harney Elementary for school. And just all the tagging and gang symbols and different magic words that were covered up over the years. That was the scenery that they got to walk to school and what that might do to their perception or quality of life, and just quality of self.
Yeah.
Can you imagine looking at, and it's right there, we can turn and look at it if you like, but seeing the finished product of and thinking of those two girls is kind of where I'm thinking, where my mind goes, where instead of a tagged, horrible looking area where they're walking to school, they instead get a chance to glimpse Van Gogh maybe for the first time.
Yes.
But do you think about that as well? Just kind of what that's going to be like for kids to walk to and from school?
Absolutely. Yes, I am so excited. When I do art lessons with little kids as well, that's one of those names that once they start getting interested in art, that's often one of the first ones that pops up. So if they haven't heard about him, they'll get to see the work on the mural and kind of get inspired once they do see that in the future. And if they already know about it, it's one that they often get excited they recognize, and they get back into the conversation with people around them about art because they recognized it. And then Van Gogh was also really good about translating the things that he saw around him in the best way possible. So no matter what struggles he was going through, he wanted to show the best of things in that. And that's what I kind of wanted to incorporate with this as well. In a situation where we have this mural so heavily tagged, or the bridge underpass is so heavily tagged, when we add the colors, this is also almost an homage to his work, where we are trying to create the best environment in that situation, no matter what was on there before.
Wow, that's so deep. That's not something I even thought of. There's a lot of duality there. So it's like no matter the pain and suffering that had been done to that wall in the past,
we're utilizing art to make it into the best thing possible.
Oh my goodness, that is the beauty of art right there. That's the depth. Oh my goodness.
We're
getting philosophical with Anita Gordon here, artist. Now, if people are going to look at the picture, okay, but if we can, through the magic of this podcast, kind of walk them through and paint that picture. And so you incorporate a lot of things that people young and old will be able to resonate with.
Yes.
One of those being, and we're kind of trying to get the finalized layout of the Skyview Theater, which was right there where Harney Elementary is located. What are some of the other elements that you decided to put in that mural as ones that would endear it to the community?
That's a great question. So we do have the sky view, as you mentioned, and then the other elements on the south side will be the Harney Elementary, which is super close by, so you can actually stand at the position in the mural and see the school from there.
Very cool.
You can kind of look back and forth. We also have a little bit of the park in there, since the Memorial Park is a big part of Lebanon as well. Want to incorporate a little bit of that. And then there are 3 views from downtown. That'll be on the north side of that mural. So we get to have a little bit of the park element, the greenery, celebrate the theater and the interactive elements that happen in the community. And then there's also the buildings that are known for the area.
Reasons for those things? Just one of those that stick out to you, maybe?
Honestly, most of them were just as I drive through, those are some of the hot spots that I see. But then things like the sky view, recommendations from others in the community who knew those things a little bit more, and that felt like those were important parts of the community. And then there's also the top sky, and the bottom of the railroad part will be a little bit more of the texture of the Starry Night aspect, referring back to the Van Gogh element, and incorporates a little bit more of the fun floral or swirled texture throughout the whole top.
And I love your nod to whimsy also. You know, again, envisioning these couple young ladies that are walking to or from school, hiding some tiger paws. So as they're going along, they've got to find. And are you going to tell us how many you're going to put in there, or it's just going to be you got to find them?
I think I'm going to leave it a surprise for
Okay,
now.
okay.
There will be more than 5, less than 30. I know that's a big
Holy
range.
cow. Yeah, that's a big range.
Yes. Originally, when we first drew out the plans, I wanted to put a lot on the south side as well. But as I talked to other individuals, safety was a concern for that. So I didn't want to put that many on the south side, if any at all, just to make sure that people aren't spending time on that side of the road. We want to keep them on the guardrail side, so that will actually encourage participants and people walking through to stay on the guardrail side.
We're going to take our final lap here with Anita Gordon, local artist extraordinaire. How important are projects like this to be able to have that artistic representation being displayed?
That is so important. Oh, yes. Yeah. Even just adding 1 or 2 elements like this to a city can make a huge difference. I noticed it a little bit more driving through the local areas that have those. Anytime I see a city that has added that element in there, I know that there's artists around that are starting to be more celebrated, and it brings a higher quality of life for the area when people start seeing the arts being celebrated in addition to all of the great things the community has to offer.
And so the injection injection of color maybe has a positive kind of vibe along with it. Even if you're not like me, stick figures is where I'm hanging out. I'm not going to draw anything else. But the injection of art and the color that kind of lifts all boats, that type of thing.
It does. Yeah, I actually have some professors that I can't remember the name of their program, but they actually grouped together and created a program that goes around and paints areas. And part of it is to rejuvenate neighborhoods that have been torn down or just run down in general. They actually go in and paint houses, and that actually brings up the property value so that they're able to help the neighborhood get a little bit more income and then start repairing things that need to happen in the area.
As we wrap up here, Anita, what have you seen Lebanon change as a concerning like having more artists being welcomed in the community? Have you seen kind of the growth towards that in recent memory from growing up in the area?
Absolutely. Yes, so much more. And even just when I'm out on the street painting as well, I see a better appreciation from the community. People are excited to stop and talk to me about the arts. Before, you could see a lot of people be a little bit more timid. They didn't know how to interact with that. But now that the arts have been kind of incorporated more throughout the town and throughout the whole city area, people get excited about it, and I see a lot more positive reaction from the community.
Dumb question. You're hoping this continues, right?
Absolutely. Yes, please keep up with this. Yeah, I definitely appreciate seeing it. The ones that I'm able to participate in and the ones that I know Scott's done. So many of the beautiful ones out there too. Those just, they make such a big difference in the community.
And who knows, maybe we could be seeing the Anita Gordon Gallery or one that's run by you. Maybe one day not too far from now. We'll see. Well, Anita, thank you for being here on the podcast. Hopefully it was painless enough for you, and we'll have you again. And good luck on the mural.
Thank you.
And I forgot to mention, though, Community Creation Days, we're going to be having some. You're okay with doing those where the public can come out and put paint, brush to canvas?
Please do. I don't want it to just be interactive for you looking for those things. I want you to be able to be part of this, too. Absolutely. Please come.
We'll give you a little stay tuned to be able to see the dates and times when I need to have everybody out there. And we'll give you some Lebanon swag and some refreshments also to be able to put paint to canvas. And so, Anita, thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks, everybody, for listening to this episode of the Lebanon podcast. More episodes are coming your way. Take care.